Well, can I say how interesting I was to listen to you talking about your trials and tribulations, really. And sometimes when I look at the industry, I'm surprised everybody's still here, because sometimes it's a very hard hill and mountain to climb in order to deliver a successful project and to ensure that it has a future and it is well supported. So it's really congratulations to you, all of you in many ways, for the work that you've put in. And I must say, when I look at Marine Energy Pembrokeshire, you know, you're unique really in many ways, because you have brought about considerable collaboration between industry, government, which is an important partner, and academia, and working towards the centre of excellence here, which I think is absolutely important. And I can't really believe that when you were first established, there were eight organisations, and now you're up to 80, which is absolutely marvellous. And to see the number of delegates that are here today to discuss the very important issues you will be talking about, I think is a tribute to you hanging in there to make sure that the industry has a future within Pembrokeshire and within Wales. And we do live in exciting times, I think, when we talk about the industry. You know, we were listening to you about your project now in Ramsey Sound, and I'm sure we'll be talking about other things, like the Pembrokeshire Wave Demonstration Project. We'll be talking about everybody that's doing everything. And it all seems to be coming together now as the world seems to change and recognises it's got to look at other means of generating energy in order to keep industry going. It's sad in some ways that sometimes crises are the ones that bring on innovation, but sometimes it is a crisis that brings people to their senses and they do look at alternatives. And when I was listening to the presentation you were making about Ramsey Sound, how important it was that you looked at all the environmental considerations within the area, how it's important is to prove to people that what we're doing is the right thing and that we're not actually further doing any damage to our environment in our creation of energy. Can I say, since I've had ministerial responsibility for energy, it's an area that I've really enjoyed dealing with it, because it's actually been so innovative and so different from so many of the things that I do. When you read out my list of portfolios, I've enjoyed every one of them. But I have to say that the last couple of years, looking at issues like energy, the technology about marine, has actually been really fascinating for me, because I'm not a scientist. If anything, my first love is music, and I'm a musician, not even a politician. So at the end of the day, what I found exciting is the way that people have developed their ideas and how they brought their collaborations together, and how finally I think we can see an end game in the development of these technologies that are going to be utilised not only within Wales but elsewhere. But I think what is important for us is that as Wales pushes ahead in this sector, we must ensure that we carry on taking the lead, and we mustn't allow it to be pinched off us by anybody else. We must be prepared to showcase the excellence we've got here, and also importantly, make people understand why we're so attractive to come here and why we have the scientists, why we have all the business acumen to make these projects really stack up. And I think when we talk about projects like that, I'll have to mention the Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon. It is from my own patch, but it is a project that has almost universal goodwill towards it within the Swansea area and in the context of Wales. And people recognise there are enormous costs attached to the Lagoon project, but they say the Lagoon project in Swansea Bay and the linked projects would make such a difference in terms of energy, and why don't we just get on and do it? And that seems to be the views that are abroad. We only hope that Treasury see it in this way in terms of the strike price and the costs, because it is very important, not just for energy production, but also for the development of a new and sustainable industry. So we regard the Lagoon project as being quite key. Also as well, one of the difficult areas I always think is, of course, funding. And I think we've all been pleased, and we were discussing, weren't we, the issues about we've had European funding streams, which have been enormously helpful. We've had match funding then from the private sector. And of course, we'll be having further funding on this in the next structural round. And I think that is absolutely important for the future development of this industry. I've also as well, since I've taken over this portfolio, I set up a Marine Energy Task and Finish group to provide advice on a sustainable approach to deliver jobs, growth and wealth from the emerging marine energy sector. I've had their report, which is a very good report, and we're now considering the implications for government. But they focused on some areas which I think were very important. They focused on the potential of marine energy, the opportunities for Wales, what progress we made to date, where we want to be and the next steps. And all across the piece, there is a role for the Welsh Government, there's a role for Natural Resources Wales, there's a role for WEFO. And in terms of some of their recommendations, some of the key areas they've looked at are things like leadership and the importance of Welsh Government updating its policy regularly and showing leadership in terms of what it's doing on marine energy. Also as well, we should take all opportunities really to promote the marine energy sector across the globe in terms of what we can do in a Welsh context. And we should also as well continue all the time to develop wider policies within Welsh Government that can support the sector. But one of the key areas that arose from it was the opportunity for jobs and growth, because we've only got to look now in your membership now, you have tier 1 suppliers. It's so important that we look at the supply chain in how we deal with the jobs and growth agenda, because we want to maximise the supply chain to marine energy from Welsh companies if we can, to ensure that they have an opportunity to be part of a booming industry, and also as well have the opportunity of ensuring the jobs remain in Wales. So there are issues around that, and there are also as well issues around skills and training. Is there specific training you need as a sector? Is there more bespoke training we should be doing for you as a sector? And should there be greater investments in the skills and training to ensure as a sector that when we say to people come to Wales, we have the ability to give them the resource they need, not just in terms of a wonderful coastline and etc., but also the skilled workforce. But one of the issues I think that we've all confronted, and I mentioned earlier, was finance and funding. And we've got to understand, I think, that funding from the public sector is currently very difficult. But sometimes you've got to take a risk on what you do and be prepared to spend money in advance of the game, which could actually be a long time ahead. So it is important that we look for novel funding approaches. And also as well, we've got to look at the way we look at public funding, because it is important that we use public funding in the right way. Because I've always thought the role of public funding is to actually take that bit of a risk. For all the public funders to say, well, you can't get to that gap, or we'll help you with that gap. If you don't succeed, we're upset. But if you do succeed, we say absolutely wonderful. Because there must always be an element in risk, because the role of government should be to facilitate. The role of government shouldn't be to close down. So I think it's important we look at those issues in terms of money. And one of the other areas they've looked at is research and development, and I think R&D is absolutely crucial to this. I don't think that a nation can be a nation unless it's prepared to support research and development. That's why it's so important as an organisation you've done those links with academia, that we see where the future is and we go on and develop ideas. Also as well, in the key areas, of course, is I caught a hint of the national grid, did I, in your presentation when I came in? Yeah, I think it's important we recognise some of the big infrastructure issues that we need to focus on. But we also need to look at smart energy solutions, storage infrastructure. There are all these areas that we've really got to get grips with in the future, because it is important that we consider all of these. And in terms of what we do, we need to brand ourselves properly. We need to brand ourselves as the industry that is current, the industry of the future, and the industry that gives the opportunity, I think, to do things in Wales. The wonderful thing I think about coming here to Pembrokeshire today is not only the fact that it's beautiful and sunny, and it always seems to be when I come to Pembrokeshire, but is the important way that the work has developed down here. Because you've certainly given the work a profile within this area, and you've ensured that Wales is a location for marine energy, and that people understand that it's a location for marine energy. And the way the projects have been developed all around our coast, I think, helps that coherent image. So it's my great pleasure to be with you today. I'm delighted to see my colleague Joyce Watson, which I think I can see vaguely in the front of the hall in the darkness, here today, because Joyce will obviously hopefully be carrying on as an Assembly member, and she's been a member of the Enterprise and Business Committee and other committees in the Assembly, because it's not just about the Environment Committee and Energy, it's about the wider I think, into what's going on within the development of this particular sector. So I apologise in advance for my cold. I promise not to infect you from this distance, but I am delighted to join you. I hope you have successful dialogue and discussions today, and I will be happy if you want to take a few questions.